Hi guys, it's Emily from Nobel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my July wrap up part 1 and I am having an amazing month so far. I think I've read less this half of the month than I did the last time at this time. I'll have a look because I'm a nosy Parker. Normally, yeah, I think I've read, last month I'd read 18 books on the first half and today I've only read 14. Just 4 less. But do you know what? That is not bad. I'm not unhappy with that because I've read some chunk of books, and even if I read less this month, that's not a bad thing. I've got like one book that is going to be read that's in a sort of novella, and I've got a couple of shorter ones that I'm probably going to read. But I've read most of my chunky books in the first half of the month because I'm going on holiday soon, and I want to get the chunky books over and done with. There's only one chunky one that I'm taking on holiday, and then I just thought, do you know, get the big books over and done with. And I've got another shorter book to read because I've still got Lady Susan to read, which I think I might try and read over the weekend because I want to get that done soon. But I also want to have a little break because I've read most of my janeaustenjuly books I've read in this first half. So I'll show you obviously in a minute what I've read, what I'm reading currently, first of all. Then I've got 1 3-star. This is a brilliant start to the month, by the way, because I've had 1 DNF, but that's okay. I've got 1 3-star, 1 3.5 star, 5 4 stars, 1 4.5, 1 2, 7. I think it's about 7 or 8 5 stars. So that's really, really good. And one of these books is going to go on my top books of the year so far. I can't tell you what yet, obviously, because so far I've got quite a few 5 stars. When you get to them, let me know whether you can predict which one of those books is going to be my favourite. Although I think you all know me well enough to predict that pretty quickly. So, enough about the stats. I'm really happy with my reading month. I've had the best weather this month. Had a bit of a wobble at the weekend, mentally, but I'm preparing for the fact that I'm filming this on the 14th, so we're just under halfway, because I think this month is like 31 days. So we're just under halfway through the month, so 14 books is still amazing. Though, like I said, I'm going on holiday. And it's just doing really well. Loving my books this month. Really good start to the year. So the first book that I'm currently reading is The Sixth Wife by Jean Plaidy. You'll know why I'm reading this when you watch my old book hauls revisited, which is coming up. It's the 6th in the Tudor Queen. It's about Catherine Parr. But I must admit, this is I think my first Jean Plaidy, and I'm really loving her writing. I only picked it up yesterday and read 104 pages really quickly. So the day that I'm filming this, it could probably be finished. I'm aiming to try and see if I can get this finished because I'm loving it that much. It's a really good book. Obviously you'll hear more about it in my second wrap up. But it's about Catherine Parr's story, but it's also written, because you're also not just hearing her narration, you're hearing the next generation's narration. So you're hearing bits from Edward, Mary and Elizabeth. And I think that's really interesting. Even Lady Jane Grey's in this quite a bit. So it's really, really good. Lots of different people are talking in this, so it's quite an interesting book. My only slight niggle is that there's not very many chapter breaks, so the breaks are more on these little dots rather than chapters. So that's my only slight niggle. Then the book that I started last month, I can't tell you too much about this because this is another one in the series where there's the one in the series before this I've already read, and I wanted to read 2 in the series because this is Sunshine at the Comfort Food Cafe, so I wanted to read it while it was sunshine. And I sneaky peek to the fact that the other book that I read by this author, the one in the sequel, the series before this, I loved. So I wanted to get to the second one. And this is about Willow Story, so I can't really tell you too much about it. But it's about Willow. And Willow is in all the other books, but she's only sort of a side character in the other books. And this is her story and about how she meets someone. And it's about their friendship. And you see the people from the other books in this book. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I only started it last night and read 108 pages. Again, this one's going to be read very quickly because I think if I finish Jean Plaidy tonight, I'll probably try and finish this. If not, I will get it finished tomorrow because it's just incredible. Then the penultimate day of reading this is The Strawberry Thief by Joanne Harris. I've got today and tomorrow to finish this. So the day this goes live, I believe, it will be finished. It's the 4th in the Chocolat series. And I'm loving it. I'm really loving this one. My slight niggle is the fact that we don't get told the narrators at the start of the chapters, and I do kind of get a little bit lost. But I think it could be 5 stars. I think I could like this more than the one before it because we've got Rosette's story in this. So again, I can't tell you too much because it's a series, But Rosette is talking this. Rosette's a lot older, and Rosette is her Dudas, Vivian's youngest daughter, and she's actually got a narration in this. And I'm loving hearing her, Vivian, and obviously we've got Reynard, who's talking in this, and I'm loving their different narrations. Loving the book, flying through it. I must admit, if I wasn't doing Baz books today, I might even try and finish it today, because it's really, really good. I can't wait to read it. Can't wait to finish it. Brilliant. And then the last book, which I'm reading, part of the Tudor along, and that is The Six Tudor Queens. I am on chapter 10 already, and we're reading it over 2 months. I've got a funny feeling I may try and fly through it in the start of August, because I am loving Anne's story. This is one of the shorter books in the series, I think. Shorter than the last one. It's 537 pages. So I'm trying to do like a chapter a day over certain different days, and not reading on the days when I'm working. But we all know Anne Boleyn's story, but this is great because it starts off when she's very young, and the bits that I've read so far are when she's in France, which we all know happened, and she's just moved over to England, and she's just meeting Henry, and we all know where it's going. But I'm loving seeing her and hearing her and her sister, because obviously we know that her sister Mary Boleyn had children with Henry VIII. We already know that's a given. But Anne's relationship with Mary at the start of this is going really well, and I like the fact that she's the younger sister protecting the older sister, and I think that bit's really good. You know how it turns, but I'm not going to tell you. But yeah, it's a really good book, and I'm thoroughly loving it. So now to the books that I've actually read. I don't want this video to be too long because I'm off to Baz book soon. TBR jar did awful, didn't it? I rated this 3 stars. To be honest, I'm probably going to drop it. If I had my way, I'd probably drop it to a 2 to a 2.5. Because do you know what? I read this book. It was friggin' massive, and how much of this I actually remember. It's 675 pages book. I started with it. I can't actually even bloody remember it. Even though it's a beautiful, beautiful book, I don't think I'm actually going to keep this, because I didn't like it, and I can't see myself rereading it. I only bought it purely because I thought it looked gorgeous, and I thought it was a great book. It's my first Henry James books, and it's going to be my last, because it's about Isabel Archer, a wealthy, beautiful and spirited American who is expected to marry when she travels to Europe with her aunt. But Isabel is resolved to enjoy her freedom and her wealth that her wealth brings, and must somehow choose between all the suitors who may be hiding sickeningly different motives behind their woes of love. It's all right. It was all right, so probably not 2 stars. I didn't hate it, but it's probably 2.5 because I don't really remember it very much. So it's all right, but just nothing particular. So that's going on my charity shop pile. Now we've got 3.5 stars, and this is a wartime book that I wanted to read because it's quite a summary book. It looks quite summary, and this is set at the start of the war. We sort of start off in the World War II. World War II is not yet over. In the family home in Chawton, Donald Oliver is snubbed by his aristocratic neighbours, Lord Frampton. He dreams of the day he'll have vengeance. Laura, Donald's daughter, falls in love with Giovanni Angelotti, an Italian ex-prisoner of war, now a humble cook, ignoring her father's wrath as the couple flee to London. This has a lot of triggers, so please be aware going in that there are quite a few triggers in this. So be aware that it's not a simple love story. I didn't like the ending. It was 3.5 stars because it did have me gripped. I did like Laura. I thought she was a really good character and quite strong-willed. She stands up for the person she loves, and she fights against her family's prejudice. And I thought that was good. I think it was good to hear about other things in the war, but there is a tragedy in this, and I didn't like the ending very much. The last bit, apparently it's sort of a part of a series, so I don't know if the series would continue and it'd be good, but it's not one I'm going to look for. So that's actually probably going to go down to a 3 star, so I may knock it down actually. So the first 2 books weren't exactly the best start to the year, so they're not the best. But now I go into the 4 stars. Those 2 are the only ones that I would say, yeah, straight away, charity shop, not the best. There were 3 stars. I would say 3 to 2.5. I've changed it. I'm dropping both their ratings. But now I go into 4 stars, and they are all really good. A couple of my Jane Austen July books are rereads, and both of them, I can tell you, have jumped up a star rating. So, first one is a reread. Northanger Abbey. I read this in a day. I loved it. I read it when I rated it first time. I rated it 3 stars. This time I rated it 4. It went up. It's still not my favourite. Still nowhere near Pride and Prejudice or Emma. But I actually liked Catherine a lot more in this. And when she meets the sophisticated Henry and Eleanor Tilney, who invite her to stay at their father's mysterious house, Northanger Abbey, There, Catherine runs into dangers, imaginary and real, and learns the difference between books, real life, and literature. I think this is another one. Still, even after 2 reads, it's one I'm going to reread again and again because I want to get. I think there's a lot more I could get out of it. I think this time I read it in a day, and I probably read it too fast. So I think going forward to this next year, I may read next year or the year after. I would probably try and read it as a buddy read because I think that would get more. I would get more out of it reading it as a buddy read or reading it over a shorter length of time. So that's my only thing that I would say going forward with this book. I need to read it over a smaller period of time so I can get more out of it. But I did enjoy it more. I definitely liked Catherine as a character more. And it's got me thinking that I'm definitely ready for Sense and Sensibility next year, because if I can get more out of this time, I know I can get more out of Sense and Sensibility next year. So that's my keepy. Then my Jane Austen July Contemporary, which is me and Mr Darcy, which is my first Alexandra Potter book. And actually, this author wrote The Confessions of a 40-something, which I'm reading on holiday, and I'm taking that on holiday, and that's her most recent. This is one of her earlier books, and it's basically that the lead character in this goes to Bath and meets who she thinks is Mr Darcy, and she kind of, it's like time travel, or Mr Darcy comes out of a book, that sort of fantasy element. And she is like us, loves her books, loves Jane Austen, loves all the Jane Austen characters, and loves Pride and Prejudice, and thinks she knows all about the books, and thinks books are better than real life, which sometimes it feels like it is. And she has this Mr Darcy's up as like the top guy, and she has a real life guy that's in there that she doesn't think she'll fall for, and it's how romance and how Mr Darcy can seem perfect, but when you actually think about it, he wasn't as perfect as he was. So that's why it got me 4 stars, because it really did get me thinking, I think. And there's a bit of fantasy because there's some people that aren't what they think they are, and yeah, she's obviously going to Bath. I would love to go to Bath. I'd love to go to Jane Austen territory and read more about her. And yeah, it's actually quite a fun retelling. 4 stars. It was really good fun and really easy. Now the next one is one that I've literally only just finished yesterday. It was an extra book on my TBR because it was part of my books that I wanted to read in the summer. By the way, going forward, let me know if you think this, but I'm going to do a video in August about autumn books, the books that I want to read in the 3 months of autumn. So the 3 months of autumn for me are going to be, I think what we're going to do is, autumn is going to be September, November, December. No, September, October, November. Then winter's December, January, February. Then spring is March, April, May. And then that way. And that's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do a set of books that I'm going to be reading over those months. But I'll probably only do 10 books, because this time I set myself a bit of a bigger goal, and I think it was a bit harder to achieve. But yeah, that was the book I picked up because it had summer in the title. But this is actually sci-fi, and it's one of my few sci-fi books. And again, it's got time travel in it, and the time travel element. And how far would you go to save the person you love? Luna is about to do everything she can to save her mother's life, even if it means sacrificing her own. And there were some twists in this that I did not expect. But the reason why it got 4 stars is that it did take me a time to get into it. I got a bit annoyed at the characters at the start. I found it wasn't giving us enough at the start. I found I couldn't really get into it. But when I did, oh my God, the power of the book was amazing. There was twists that I did not expect, and bad guys that I did not expect. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the way Luna was. I love her sister character in this. I love there's an extra lady in this who's magical and a bit oh, and there's a romance in it that's so good, and it's not saucy at all, but it's really, really good. It's about pure love, and I love that, But there are some triggers in this, so again, be warned of those going forward. But one I won't keep because it's not one I'm going to reread because I know the twists. I don't keep books that I'm going to reread that are going to have that twists. Next one again is the next in the Nightingale series, so I can't tell you too much about this, but this one centres around Dora, who is back at the hospital. Jennifer and Sissy are volunteers, and then you've got the shy and troubled Eve, who's a hospital who provides an escape from the pressures at home. So we've got new characters in this, but we've got Dora, who is the character from the first book. And this is set in the World War One, and it is really, really good. In World War Two, sorry, in the Blitz. But it's, again, there are some things that happen in here that I didn't expect that made me cry. It's 4 stars because it was very much typical of the series, but it was really good, and it's one I'm keeping. I'm keeping the whole series because then I'm going to either decide whether I'm going to keep it or send it to Danny. I'm still trying to decide that. The next one, I think, I'm still debating whether I keep this, and that is Jane Austen at Home by Lucy Worsley. I was hoping it would be more about the homes. I don't know whether I should keep this or not. So this is going to go on my bit half up the stairs where I decide whether I'm going to keep it or not. So you can let me know you guys think that I would get more out of it on a reread. It's my autobiographical sort of book about Lucy Worsley's talking about the rooms in Jane Austen's home. It was good, it just wasn't quite as good as I was expecting and I'm hoping. I love the pictures in this, so I may keep it because the pictures are gorgeous and it took me a long time to get this. But it was good, it just wasn't quite as about the family, and I did learn more about Henry, her older brother. I did like more about that, so I did enjoy it, just not quite as much as I wanted to. I thought it would be a 5 stars. I think I'm going to put it on the keepy pile just in case, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it, where I'm going to put it in. I've got loads of room on shelves, and obviously I'm trying to clear my shelves a little bit, but anyway. So the next one was a book that doesn't look like, it's not the most beautiful copy, because it's Rainbow Valley, and it's the penultimate one in the Anne of Green Gables series, and this was another book that on the reread I rated it higher. I rated it 3 or 4 stars the first time I read this, and this is my only 4.5 star, because when I reread it I took so much more out of it. I literally fell in love with, I really saw more of Anne's characters, Anne's family in this, and I saw that sort of this other family that have moved to Rainbow Valley and their characters and how they all grow and how it all intermingles and the characters link up. And this is actually one of my favourites. Like, it's not as good as Anne or Anne of Avonlea, they're my 2 favourites. But I actually enjoyed this more than Anne's House of Dreams, which does surprise me because I didn't think I would. I think I'm going to keep this Anne of Green Gables series because it is one I would like to reread. It's just not for a while. I think next time I may read them spread out a bit more. But yeah, this is a keepy. I thoroughly loved it. We're nearly there on the Analome, guys. We're nearly there. I need to actually write a note on my... But right, now I'm on to the 5 stars. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 7. And because look at the time, I've got to have to hurry up. I can't talk too much about it. So I just showed you that obviously that I'm reading the next one in the series, but this is the one that I was supposed to be reading, and that's Coming Home to the Comfort Food Cafe. It's more of a wintry book, but at Baz Books at the moment we're doing Christmas in July, which is a sneaky peek to another book that I read this month, and this is centering around Zoe and her goddaughter Martha. Now Zoe's best friend dies at the start of the book, and she leaves Martha in Zoe's care because Zoe's her godmother and Zoe's like a second mother to her. And they've decided, and Martha's going down a bit of a rough road, so Zoe decides to take them to where the Comfort Food Cafe is and move down there, and it's a break just to try and sort Martha out. And then some things happen and they all intermingle with other characters from other books, and Zoe finds some things that she didn't realise, and I loved it, really loved it. Really does tackle found family really well, and I thought it was brilliant. So next one is my thriller of the month. It is 5 stars because it's a Dorothy Crimson thriller, but I'm not keeping it because it's a little bit scary. But this one is, again, a murder mystery, and you've got 10 years ago, Peter survived a weekend with a sadistic serial killer. She never told anyone what happened and instead moved on with her life. But now the man who kidnapped her is hunting down her past victims, meaning she may have to tell her deepest secrets to stay alive. This has got different chapters from different characters' stories. It jumps around, it's fast, it's scary. I loved it. I can't tell you enough, but now that I know the twist, I'm not keeping it. It's one of my only 5 stars I'm not keeping, but it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. Now to my first, one of the only page turn books I've never read, and this is The Accidental Life of Jessie Jefferson. It's the first in her YA series. Jessie Jefferson is Johnny Jefferson's daughter, and we find out a little bit about this in Johnny Be Good, which is her novella, and we get to go back to Johnny and Meg, and I love Johnny and Meg. Johnny's Girl is one of my favourite series. Johnny Be Good is one of my favourite books in the whole page tunes ever written. Baby Be Mine I loved. So going back to this world, going back to those characters, it's brilliant, and meeting Jessie Jefferson is amazing, and I loved it. Fantastic. The next one is The Other Bennett Sister by Janice Hadlow. Of course I loved this. Of course it was brilliant. It was a reread because I listened to it on an audiobook the first time. It's about Mary Bennett, and I'm not going to tell you anything, but this is about Mary Bennett, the forgotten sister. She's the sister that's not talked about very much in Pride and Prejudice, but she is actually the one I empathise with the most. She is not classed as good looking. She is considered plain, which obviously she isn't. And she loves her books, and she has glasses, and Her story is amazing and I loved it. I love going back to Pride and Prejudice, and I actually was going to read it after I read Pride and Prejudice, but I couldn't wait. It was so good. Now another bit I added on because I wanted to get this series done, and that is the Christmas at the Little Beach Street Bakery. The Sunshine at the Beach or something like that, her latest book is actually out now, and I got it not very long ago, but I decided that because I want to read, sneaky peek to my TBR for August, because I wanted to read the Sunshine one, the last in the series, or the most recent in the series, I don't know if she's going to carry on this series yet. I decided I wanted to read this month, and it's, again, you're going back to the Beach Street Hotel, Beach Street Bakery. This one more sort of centres around Corenza, who is Polly Waterford's best friend, and their storyline, and Polly is in this a lot, and the Puffin's in it, and it's great and it's lovable, and 5 stars every time. Then to Pride and Prejudice, I finished it early. You know me, since when do I ever stick to a schedule? Loved it. This went from 4 to 5 stars on the reread. Thoroughly loved it. Can't shout it out enough. Everyone knows about Pride and Prejudice. On a reread, it's definitely even more beaten Emma. Like, oh, I just loved it so much. And yes, Lizzie Bennett is naughty. We were having this discussion on our book waffle. Lizzie Bennett is not someone you love at the start, but you grow to love her, and I grew to love her, and I thought she was brilliant. And yeah, she's a bit of a wally at times, and I loved seeing revisiting past characters. Wickham, Mr Darcy, Miss Bennett, who was like the most annoying mother ever. Like, oh, if I ever turn into her, kill me please. But literally, I loved it more on a reread. It's fan-flipping-tastic. Do I need to say more? There. Then, last but not least, The No Show by Beth O'Leary. I loved it. It's amazing. It's brilliant. Yes, it was slow paced. Yes, I wasn't sure this was going to be a 5 stars, because for me, I was just like, no, it can't beat The Switch. It can't beat some of the best books ever. But oh my God. I will say, I don't want to tell you the twist, but God, when this picks up pace halfway through, you're just like screaming. I couldn't put it down. I was like, I could have, oh my God, it was just so incredible. It's just such a great book. It's about, like, we all know the start of it. So the start of it is there's 3 different times, 3 different women supposed to meet this guy. So 8:52, Siobhan is looking forward to meeting a breakfast date with Joseph. Then 2:43, Miranda's hoping that a Valentine's lunch with Carter will be the perfect way to celebrate her new job. 6:30, Joseph Carter agrees to meet be Jane's fake boyfriend at an engagement party. But he doesn't shop at any of these. And you've got the 3 characters, their storyline, how they're connected to Joseph, and you start off this book and you hate him and you think he's a silly Billy, what a knob, and then some twists happen and oh my God, your whole world in this book gets turned upside down. All the 3 leading characters are brilliant. For me, my favourite was Jane. Obviously my middle name's Jane, but it wasn't because of that. Jane was still my character that I was most interested in. She was the one that I was most interested in her storyline, but I did love Miranda and I loved Siobhan. I loved all of them. But I think for me it went Jane, Miranda, Siobhan as the characters that I loved and why I loved them. Again, you do have some triggers in this book, but it's fan-flipping-tastic. So, what do you think are going to be my favourite books of the month so far? Okay, I stuffed it up. I did it in the order. Easily The No Show. That's my favourite. It's going on my favourites for the year so far. And I shouldn't have a reread as my favourite, but Pride and Prejudice is my other favourite of the month. So, because I wanted to have I'm going to do this on the second part. I wanted to have a favourite book for Jane Austen July and a favourite book for the month so far. I definitely think this one's going to probably be in my favourites for the month, for the year so far. It's going to be in my top 10 of the year. It's that good. And it's going to probably still be in the top favourites of Jane Austen in July. But what are your favourite books this month? Let me know in the comments down below. Are there any books that you've had that you really want to scream shout to me and recommend to me? Let me know down below. And then the last little things, I've forgotten what I was going to say then. Don't worry, I've forgotten what I was going to say. My brain's just gone. I hope you all had a great month, and I hope the second half of the month is just as great as the first. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.